Have you ever seen an animal act strangely? A dog that barks at an empty corner. A cat that stares intently at something you can't see. We usually dismiss it. We say it's their instincts. A sound we can't hear. A scent we can't smell. But what if it's none of those things? What if they're seeing something that is deliberately hidden from our eyes? A protector standing guard, or a predator testing the locks. There was one man, a saint, who didn't dismiss it. He knew exactly what it was. And his secret warning changes everything you think you know about the animals that cross your path. His name was Francesco Forgione, but the world would come to know him as Padre Pio, a humble Capuchin friar from a small town in southern Italy. But this was no ordinary man. From a young age, he was known to live in two worlds at once, the physical world we all know, and the spiritual world that surrounds us. He bore the stigmata, the wounds of Christ, on his hands, feet, and side for 50 years. He could read souls in confession, telling people their sins before they even spoke. He could bilocate, appearing in two places at once. For Padre Pio, the veil between heaven and earth was incredibly thin. He saw angels, he spoke with Jesus and Mary, and he physically battled the devil. He understood spiritual warfare not as a metaphor, but as a nightly reality. And because he saw the enemy so clearly, he also recognized the protectors God sends to our aid, often in the most unexpected disguises. If you want to understand these hidden signs, make sure you subscribe, because what you're about to learn could be the most important spiritual lesson you ever receive. This idea of animals as divine instruments isn't new. It's woven throughout salvation history. Think about it. It was a dove that brought Noah the promise of a new world. It was a donkey that saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword, saving the prophet Balaam from certain death. It was ravens, considered unclean birds, that God sent to feed the prophet Elijah in the wilderness. Time and time again, when God needs to send a message, to offer protection, or to provide for his people, he uses the humble, the overlooked, the creatures we often take for granted. They operate on a different level of perception. They lack the pride and the doubt that so often blinds us. They simply are. And in that simplicity, they can become perfect vessels for the divine will. Padre Pio understood this principle better than anyone. He knew that the war for souls was too important for God to leave us without sentinels. To grasp Padre Pio's warning, you must first understand the world he lived in. He described his life as a constant battle. He wrote in his letters about being attacked so violently by demonic forces that he would be left bruised, bleeding, and exhausted. These weren't nightmares or psychological episodes. They were physical assaults. He called the devil the blue-bearded barbarian. This was the reality of his cell at San Giovanni Rotondo. This constant combat gave him a unique perspective. He knew the enemy's tactics. He knew the devil's primary goal is to lead souls to despair, to make them feel abandoned and alone. And he knew that God, in his infinite mercy, would never leave his children undefended. While our guardian angels are always with us, Padre Pio's experience revealed that sometimes God provides a very physical, very visible, and very loyal form of protection right here on earth. This brings us to the story of Grigio. The name simply means the grey one in Italian. Grigio was a dog, but no one knew where he came from. He would appear at the monastery at San Giovanni Rotondo, but only when Padre Pio was in danger. He wasn't a stray that the friars fed. He didn't have an owner in the town. He was, for all intents and purposes, a mystery. a large, beautiful grey sheepdog who seemed to materialize out of thin air when he was needed most, and vanish just as quickly when the threat was gone. The friars themselves were witnesses to this. Grigio became a local legend, a silent, four-legged guardian whose loyalty was not to the monastery, but to the saint who was fighting a war none of them could truly see. One of the most famous accounts happened when Padre Pio was returning to the monastery late one night. He was walking alone on a deserted path. A man who held a deep-seated grudge against him was hiding, waiting to ambush and attack him. As the attacker lunged from the shadows, a ferocious snarl ripped through the night. Grigio appeared, seemingly from the very air itself, placing his body between the saint and the attacker. The dog didn't just bark. It radiated an aura of command and righteous fury. The would-be assailant, terrified by this sudden, supernatural-looking protector, dropped his weapon and fled into the darkness. Padre Pio calmly continued his walk back to the monastery, with his silent grey companion trotting by his side. When he arrived safely, Grigio simply disappeared. This was the first of many such encounters. Grigio's protection wasn't limited to the roads outside. It extended to the spiritual battlefield of Padre Pio's own room. On nights when the demonic attacks were particularly violent, the other friars would hear terrible sounds coming from his cell, screams, crashes, and the sounds of a struggle. They were forbidden to enter, but on several occasions, they later saw Grigio lying silently outside Padre Pio's door, like a sphinx guarding a sacred tomb. He would not let anyone pass. He was standing guard, preventing the physical manifestation of evil from escalating further. The other friars came to understand that when Grigio was present, the battle was fierce, but the saint was safe. The dog was a physical barrier against a spiritual evil. He was a visible sign of an invisible shield. So, what is the first part of Padre Pio's warning? It's about paying attention to the unexplained arrival. This is the Grigio effect. It's an animal that appears at the precise moment of need, a moment of danger, despair, or temptation. It's not the neighborhood cat you see every day. It's an animal you've never seen before, or your own pet, acting with an intelligence and timing that seems impossible. It shows up when you are at your lowest point, offering comfort. It appears just as you are about to make a terrible decision, creating a distraction. It materializes when you are in physical danger, creating a barrier. The key is the timing. It's too perfect to be a coincidence. This is the first sign, a creature sent by Providence, arriving on cue, a divine appointment in the form of an animal. The warning is to not dismiss it. Do not just call it a coincidence. Acknowledge the gift. Acknowledge the message. The second sign is about perception. It's the intense, unbroken stare. An animal becomes fixated on a point in space, an empty chair, a corner of the room, the air just behind your shoulder. It's not a fleeting glance. They are locked in. They might growl, hiss, or simply watch with a stillness that is unnerving. According to the wisdom of Padre Pio, they are seeing what you cannot. They are seeing a spiritual presence. Their senses, untainted by the skepticism and noise that fills our minds, can perceive these entities. This is the warning sign. The animal is alerting you. It's telling you, you are not alone in this room. It might be a negative presence they are warding off. Their growl a command to stay back, or it might be a holy presence. Their silent awe, a form of reverence. The key is the focus and the intensity. They are a living, breathing barometer of the spiritual atmosphere. Their eyes are the window, not just to their soul, but to the unseen world around you. The third sign is perhaps the most powerful, because it involves a creature you already know. It's the sudden and inexplicable shift in character. A gentle, loving family dog that would never hurt a fly suddenly becomes a fierce protector, planting itself between you and a guest, refusing to budge. A timid, fearful cat suddenly becomes bold and courageous, refusing to let you enter a certain room. A playful puppy becomes utterly still and serious. This transformation is the warning. The animal's core nature is being overridden by a higher purpose, the mission to protect you. It's as if a different spirit is operating through them. They are sensing a malice, a deception, or a danger that you, with your polite social conventions, are completely missing. This is a critical warning. When your trusted animal companion changes its behavior drastically in the presence of a person, a place, or a situation, do not ignore it. They are your most honest and incorruptible judge of character. So, we see the signs. But what is the actual warning? It's rarely about a simple physical threat like a burglar. The spiritual world operates on a deeper level. The animal might be warning you about a person, someone who seems charming and kind, but who has a hidden darkness, a malicious intent. The animal sees their true spirit, not the mask they wear. The warning could be about a place, a house you're thinking of buying, a location you're visiting that is afflicted by a spiritual darkness or residue of past evil. The animal feels the wrongness of the place. And most importantly, the warning might be about a temptation. The animal might be creating a barrier to stop you from going somewhere or meeting someone that would lead you into sin and despair. It's a spiritual intervention. The warning from Padre Pio is not to live in fear, but to live in a state of awareness. It's a call to look beyond the surface, to trust the pure instincts of God's creatures, and to understand that the battle for your soul is being fought on levels you can't even perceive. This raises a profound question. Is this guardian animal your own beloved pet, elevated for a moment to a higher purpose? Or is it something else entirely? Is it an angel, taking on the familiar and non-threatening form of an animal to help you? According to those who have studied Padre Pio's life and the traditions of the Church, the answer is both. God can and does use our own pets. Their love for us is pure, and that pure love makes them excellent channels for divine grace and protection. Their senses are already attuned to us. Their loyalty is unwavering. But in cases like Grigio, it seems clear that this was a different kind of being. An angelic protector sent with a specific mission, wearing the disguise of a dog. Perhaps the form it takes depends on what we need. Sometimes we need the comfort of our familiar friend. Other times, we need a guardian so powerful and mysterious that it leaves no doubt that a miracle has occurred. The key isn't to figure out the exact nature of the being, but to recognize the source of the protection. It is always from God. Now, it's easy to be skeptical. It's easy to say this is all just anthropomorphism, projecting human emotions and intelligence onto animals. Science would explain it as heightened senses, hormonal changes, or territorial instincts. And in many cases, that might be true. But Padre Pio's warning asks us to look at the pattern, not just the isolated incident. Is it just instinct when an animal appears from nowhere at the one moment you are in mortal danger, and then is never seen again? Is it just brain chemistry when a pet's behavior changes so radically that it saves you from a disastrous financial or personal decision? The secular world wants to explain everything away, to reduce the universe to a series of predictable, material reactions. But faith allows us to see the poetry behind the prose. It allows us to see the hand of the divine artist in the moments that are too timely, too perfect, too meaningful to be mere chance. The warning is to not let a purely material worldview rob you of the comfort and protection that is being offered. If we accept this reality, that animals can be messengers and protectors, then it places a sacred responsibility on us. How do we respond? First, with attentiveness. We must learn to watch and listen, to be present in the moment, and to notice these subtle signs. Second, with gratitude. When you feel that comfort, that protection, thank God for it. Acknowledge the gift. This strengthens your faith and opens you up to receive more grace. And third, with kindness. We must treat all animals with dignity and respect, as they are God's creatures and potential instruments of His will. This isn't about worshipping animals. It's about respecting the one who created them. Padre Pio had a deep love for all of creation. He saw the face of God in everything, from a loaf of bread to a simple grey dog. The warning implies a covenant. If we are good stewards of His creatures, they will be good guardians for us. There is a final, touching chapter to the story of Grigio. Years had passed, and Padre Pio was old and frail. The violent physical attacks from the demonic had ceased. One evening, Padre Pio was speaking with a fellow friar when Grigio appeared in the doorway of his cell. The saint looked at the dog and smiled gently. He said, "Hello, Grigio. You can go now. You are no longer needed." The dog seemed to understand. He gave a look of deep affection and loyalty, then turned, walked out, and was never, ever seen again. His mission was complete. The saint he was sent to guard was nearing the end of his earthly journey. It was a final confirmation that Grigio was no ordinary dog. He was a guardian, a sentinel, sent for a specific time and a specific purpose. A living testament to the love and protection of God. So look again at the animal in your life, or the one that crosses your path today. Look past the fur and the instinct. See the potential for a message, a warning, a moment of divine intervention. Padre Pio's secret is this: God's protection is everywhere, and it often comes on four paws. You are not alone in your struggles. You have unseen guardians in heaven, and sometimes you have very visible ones right here on earth. You just need to open your eyes to see them. Have you ever had an experience like this? A moment where you felt an animal was protecting you or warning you? Share your story in the comments below. Your testimony could be the sign that someone else needs to see.